Hi, everybody. Eric Dorward here with our, hopefully, final installment of building our Rocketarium Mega Rebel. Things are basically done with assembly here. The only thing that I haven't done construction-wise that I want to do is to put a fillet here and here. And I thought about using crazy glue, but there's enough of a gap there that I think wood glue is probably the way to go here. Again, we are concerned about weight in this thing, but I think it shouldn't be that big of a deal to put trace quantities of wood glue on here. So I'm going to apply some to all four sides of this. I'm going to smush things in there. Actually, it needs a little bit more because there is a gap and some of the glue is going into the gap. It's actually another reason why I figured putting a fillet on here would probably be a good idea because there's a little bit of a space between the tube here and the wood. Now, I could probably get away with doing all of this at once. Normally, I would only do about half of this because I would want it facing up to dry. I think I should be okay. Not worrying about that too much. I just don't want to stand this thing upright. If I stand it upright, then the glue will definitely seep in a direction that I don't want it to. And then that ought to do it. All right. Now, the remaining thing that I need to do is take care of the recovery system. The instructions say that I need to make sure that the nose cone fits smoothly in here. I've already done that, so that shouldn't be a problem. Not worried about that. What I do need to do, though, is get the shock cord, there we go, out of the bottom half, and I need to now attach it to the top. Again, I don't want to mess with the bottom too much right now because it's got glue drying on it. But this is fairly straightforward. Now, normally I would just tie this a few times, but the instructions are actually quite specific about the kind of knot I'm supposed to do in order to attach these. It says tie an improved clinch knot. My Boy Scout days never really materialized, so this is, tying knots is not something that, I can do it if you show me instructions. So it's really nice that Rocketarium, in their instructions, actually show you how to tie it. So I have the cord out. I'm running it through. Now, apparently I need an absolute ton of string here. So I'm going to loop it around like so, and then wrap the thread repeatedly like this. Hopefully that's good enough. And now I need to thread this bit through the loop I made, and then, where's it going next? So it goes back down through the loop and then inside this loop that I made. Okay, well, it seems to have kind of unraveled on itself, which is interesting, but I don't know. What do we got here? Yeah, it definitely kind of fell apart in the process, but whoops. I seem to have pulled it to the point where it came apart. All right, let's try this again. Yeah. All right. Through the eyelet. Myself tons of cord to work with here. Okay, and then I'm going to wrap it repeatedly and tightly around the cord. Looks like it shows 5 or 6 times there. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then all the way back through my initial loop. Okay. And then it's just supposed to pull tight here, I guess. I don't know. I'm not either I stink at this, which is a distinct possibility, or I'm kind of missing the point because this doesn't seem like a knot, any meaningful kind of knot uh, in order to hold this together. I don't know. Maybe I've got it going the wrong way. Well, I've got it twisted around. That's great. And then it shows going, just shows it going through this hole. Not through the eyelet though. That's where it really wants to go right now. The problem with this is that it's very much elastic and it has a mind of its own and it wants to lie a certain way regardless of what I want it to do. And then I think it's supposed to go back like this. I think that's, I mean, it's twisted. It's twisting itself because of the way the elastic wants to lie. And I don't know. You know what? I'm sure this is a great knot. The improved clinch knot. I'm sure is the one of the world's most foremost knots for this. But you know what I'm going to do? I think a square knot will probably do the trick. Maybe even that's not a square knot, but maybe like a granny knot that's got 3 or 4 ties into it. I'm sure will accomplish the exact same thing. And if I really wanted this to stay, you know what I could do? I'll drop a CA glue on that stuff. It's not going anywhere if I do that. I think I'm going to not do that, but pulling on this just to make sure it's tight. It looks pretty tight. Is this the right knot? No. Do I care? I mean, I probably should, but yeah, it's fine. It'll work. All right, the other way in which I'm not going to follow the actual printed instructions is, here's my parachute. This is, I mean, it's okay. It's an okay parachute. It's perhaps not the best one I've ever seen or ever worked with, but it'll do the trick. Let's actually get this out of here for the time being. The last step is a typical one for me. I don't like just having the shroud lines. Now, the instructions say that I'm supposed to loop everything and then tie the shroud lines directly onto the eye loop. I don't like doing that for a variety of reasons. So instead, we use my old barrel swivel here. So I'm going to gather up the shroud lines. These are, they're not as stiff fabric or thread or whatever I'm quite used to. They're quite soft. Hopefully that will be a non-issue. So I'm going to pull that tight through, whoops, should I pull it a little tighter. There we go, through the eye. And open it up. And then the barrel part goes up through. And there we go. That will, of course, allow everything to swivel kind of. I mean, truthfully, a lot of the times it doesn't swivel terribly well on the descent, but compared to when you don't have one of these things on, like I've had a couple rockets that I couldn't fit a swivel on for a variety of reasons. The nylon ones tend to be pretty difficult to use the swivel properly, but boy, do they tend to get tangled on the way down. Everything gets super twisted. All right, in that goes. Oh, and it's, you know what? Let's put it on the other side here. That elastic really wanted to bind up into things again. Clasp gets closed, and that ought to do it. All right. I would normally pack this up and say, success, I'm done. But of course, I still have glue to dry in this part, so it's going to sit out for a little bit. One last thing to mention, and that is, unless you are flying this on an Estes E motor, chances are you are going to need the engine spacer that came along with the kit. It's fairly straightforward. All you need to do is put it in here, which would be probably easier if I could see better what I was doing. In it goes. I just leave it in there because most of the time I either fly D motors rather than E, or I get a composite motor, which they tend to be smaller. So that's got space in there, the spacer in there, that'll just live inside there. And if you ever need to get it out, well, it's not hard. Just stand it upright, let the thing fall down, and remove it. All right, so that takes care of this build. Sure was a lot faster than some of the other builds I've done recently. A lot of fun too. No painting, so that sure saves a lot of time. All right, thanks for watching. What's coming next? I have no idea. Something to look forward to. See you then.